class organizer project was started on. The very first thing we did was create this main.py file, and the next thing we need to do is create our functions file and define these three functions we have: to view students, add students, and to remove students from class. Right now, if we try to run this program, it should give us an error. There it is, cannot import names, view students, add students, and remove students. That's why they're in red right now. So once we define our functions in our functions file, it should be running smoothly. So the very first thing we need to do is have a place to store our classes and the students in them. And the best way to achieve this result is to use dictionaries. So let's create a dictionary called classes. And the classes in our dictionary are going to be the key. And each key is separated from its value by a colon. And the values in this case is going to be the students in the classes. So we'll just give some students. And to separate items in the dictionary, use a comma, press enter. The next class in our dictionary is going to be science. And the students that are going to be in there are going to be, I'll go Jason, Sarah, and Lisa. Okay. And our last class is going to be history class. Okay. So history, and the students in there are just going to be FA, Kayla, and Asher. Okay, so that's our dictionary we just created. We have three items, three keys in our dictionary along with the values for each one. And the next thing we need to do is define a function that prints out our class list. So to define a function, we use the def keyword, and we're going to call this function print classes. Okay, and we need to print out a statement saying here are the following classes to let the user know. Here are the following classes, and the /n is to get a new line. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is print out, create a variable, and list the classes, the keys in our dictionary. So let's create a variable called class list, and we're going to list the classes in our dictionary. So dictionary classes, the keys. There we go. Now we need a for loop to print out the class list by the index number. Okay, so we're gonna for class and class list print, and the string class list and the index. I'm gonna print out the class. So each class is gonna have an index, and we're gonna add it to the class. Class. Okay, so this will print out. The index number, then a colon, then the class name. Okay. The next thing we need to do is define a function for our view students. So we're going to have view students, add students, remove students. So when we view students, it should no longer be in red. Okay. So that's how when we define the functions, it should become active in our main file. Okay. So view students. We need to first print out the classes to figure out which students you want to view, which students are in what class. So class list, print out the index with the keys in our dictionary, and we need to print classes. Okay, so while true, so this is going to keep looping. While true, we need to print out a message saying, please type the number of class you want to list. Okay, on a new line. So please type the number of class you want to list. Okay, and now we need to create a variable called my class, and this will be where the user would input their option. Now we need to try and accept. Try and so it can accept our number, except the user enters a number that is outside of our range of numbers. Then we need to print out a message saying that is invalid, please try again. That is invalid, please try again. Okay, and we need to continue to the next iteration. Now we need conditional statements. So if the user enters a number between 0 and 2, because the counter starts from zeros, math is 0, science is 1, history is 2. If they enter a number, if int our user enters a number that is greater than the length of our classes, or if our user enters a number that is less than 0, then we need to print out a message saying that is invalid, please try again. So that is invalid, please try again. Okay, there you go. Now the user enters a number that is greater than our length of classes, or if it's greater than 2, since we only have up to 2 items in our dictionary, then we also need to print out that error message saying please enter a valid number or something along those lines. So that is invalid, please enter a valid, please try again. Okay, now what if the user enters a number between 0 and 2? So else, we're going to print out the following students are in the class list along with the input we decided to list. So the following students are in the following students are in, we need to add the class list. So class underscore list int and then our input. So whatever our input is, it's going to list the students currently in that class. Okay, on the new line. So that's where the /n comes in, a new line. Now we're going to use a for loop for student in classes. So for students in classes, class list int my classes. Okay. So we're going to print the students. Okay. So what this is doing is once the user enters a valid number with the students in whatever class they choose, it'll print out the students in that class. And we need to break out of this while loop. Okay, so this break is breaking out of this while loop and it'll go back to our very first while true loop. Okay. So the very next thing we need to do is create our add students function. So add student, so define a function, add students, no arguments, and we need to print out the class list. Okay, so class list includes list out the keys. So classes are keys. And we need to print classes. Also make sure it's keys, not key, okay? Keys. There you go. And then it's going to print out the classes. While true, we're going to print out a message saying, please type the number of class you want to list like we did above. Please type the number of class you want to list. There you go. And we need to create a variable called my class, and input. That's where the user would input whatever class they want to list. Okay. Say to print this message, presented class you want to list, and right here they'll either type in 0, 1, or 2 for history. Okay. And now we need to make sure we need to try and accept int my class, except the user enters a number that is outside of our range. Then we need to print that is invalid. Please try again. That is invalid. Please try again. And it's going to keep looping. It's going to go back and print this message again, okay? Since it's a while true loop. And then we need to continue to the next iteration. Okay. So we need to print out the conditional statements we had up here. So if our guess is greater than the length of classes, or if our input is less than 0, then we need to print out a message saying that is invalid. Please try again. else if int my class is greater than the length of classes, or if our input is greater than 2, then we also need to print out that message saying that is invalid. Please try again. Okay. So the reason we're using 2 is because we only have 3 items in our dictionary, but the counter starts from 0. So 0, 1, 2. If we had another item, we'll have to update this to 3. Okay. Now, if the user enters a number between 0 and 2, else we need to print out a message saying, please type the first name of the student you would like to add. So please type the first name of the student you would like to add. And we need to create a variable here called my student, actually just student. And we need to, this will be the input. So the user will be able to input the first name of the student here after this message is printed. Now we need to add that to our dictionary. So we're going to do that by calling our dictionary along with the class list. And along with the input of the class we decided to list. Okay. So int my class because that's what we saved this variable here. And we're going to append that. So append adds or updates values in our dictionary. So we're going to append student, and we need to print out a message letting them know student has been added to class. All right. And then we're going to break out of this while loop. Okay. So once we break out of this while loop, we go back to the very beginning and print this message all over again. So the very last function we need to define is remove student. Okay. And remove student, we'll define a function using the keyword def remove students. And just like before, we need to print out the class list, the keys in the dictionary, along with the index. So class underscore list out the keys in the dictionary and print it out. So print classes. Now we also need a while true loop, just like we had up there. While true, we need to print out, please type the number of class you want to list. So please, on the new line, please type the number of class you want to list. Okay. And this needs to be in quotes. Okay. And we're going to create a variable called my class, just like we had up in our previous 2 functions, and input the user to input whatever class they want to list. Now, the next thing we need is our try and accept to make sure it can accept our number. Except the entered number that is outside of our range, then we need to print that is invalid. Please try again. And the reason they can try again is because this is a while true loop. So until something is done that it accepts, then it'll keep printing out this message. So if they print out any number outside of 0 to 2, then it can print out this message. Okay. So we need to continue. Now, if our input is greater than the length of classes, or if it's less than 0, then we need to print out the same error message again saying print that is invalid. Please try again. Please, that is invalid. Please try again. Okay. Else if our input is greater than the length of classes, or I forgot, if our input is less than 0. Okay. So, or if our input is greater than 2, since we only have up to 3 items in our dictionary and the counting starts at 0, print out that is invalid. Please try again. Okay. Else, if this else statement will come in if they do enter a number that is between 0 and 2. So else, we need the student list. Is a create a variable called student list in the dictionary, along with the class list, and int my class. Okay. And we need to print out the following students are in the class list along with the number we chose, the number of class we chose on the new line. So it's missing another one right here. So print the following students are in. I need to add it to our class list along with the input the class we chose to list out on the new line plus on a new line. And we need a for loop for student and student list. We need to print out that students along with the index number. So print and a string and student underscore list dot index. And we're going to do students. Okay. And now we're going to add it to our student plus students. Make sure I'm spelling it right. And we need to print that. Okay. So once we pick a number of classes, let's say we pick number 1, science, it's going to view the students, it's going to print out the students in science, and Jason will start at 0, Sarah will start at 1, and Lisa will be 2. So that's what this is doing right here. Now the next thing we need to do is we need a while true loop to remove a student. So once we pick a class we want to list, and once it lists the students in the class, we need to be able to remove a student in that class. So while true, we're going to print out, please type in the number of student you want to remove, okay, on a new line. So please type the number of student you want to remove. Does that make sense? There you go. We're going to create a variable here called my student equals, so the user can input the number of students they want to remove. So remember, the students are now going to have an index plus a colon, then the student. Okay. So we need a try and except. Try int my student except the enter number that is not in the range of the student. That's outside of the range of the student. Then we're going to print that is invalid. Please try again. Now what we need to do is have our conditional statements. Say they do enter a number of student that they want to remove. We need our conditional statements to make sure if they type in a number that is less than 0 or greater than our class list, then we also need to print out an error message. So if our input is greater than the length of classes, and actually the length of student list. So remember, students are going to have the index. So if it's greater than that, or if our input is less than 0, since it was start at 0, we need to print out that is invalid. Please try again. Okay. Else if our input is greater than the length of the student list, or if our input is greater than 2, what is going on? Or if our student is greater than 2, then we need to also print out that error message saying that is invalid. Please try again. Okay. Now, if they do enter a number that is within the range, then we need to go into this else statement and we need to remove that student from our dictionary. And to remove the student, since the students are values, we're going to be removing values from our dictionary. So we're going to call the dictionary along with the class list that our user entered, my classes, and we're going to remove that student. So remove student list and the student the student our user entered. Okay. Oh wow. There we go. So this will remove the student. Now we need to print out a message letting them know student has been removed from class. And we need to break out of this loop. Now also remember we have 2 while loops, so we need 2 break statements. So you can go back to our very first while true loop, okay? So break, and we need another break. So when we run this, it should, there we go. Let's run it and see how it runs. So welcome to my class organizer, it prints this line, and it gives us our 4 options. So let's try the first one, which is to view students and classes. The following classes, math, science, history. So remember, it prints out, this is here are the following classes, and this is the new line, and it'll print out the classes with the index. Okay. So let's try science. Jason, Sarah, and Lisa in science. So option 1 works. Let's try option 2. Let's add a student to science 2, and we're going to type in the first name of the student you would like to add. So our add student, remember, is please type in the first name of the student you'd like to add, students, input, and that input, we're going to append it to the value. So we're going to add it to the value of that class. So once we press enter, the say student has been added to class. So once we view that class, it should, if we do science, FA should be added to science. So remember, in science, it was just Jason, Sarah, and Lisa. When we view science again, it should be Jason, Sarah, Lisa, and FA. Now let's try removing a student from class. Okay, now it's giving us an error, so we know something is wrong. And it says it's line 64. So let's go to line keys. There you go, keys. Good. So let's run it again. 1, science, Jason, Sarah, Lisa, in science. 2, science, let's add FA. Science, FA should be added to science. Now let's try to remove Sarah from science. So 1, student has been removed from class. So now when we view science, it should just be Jason, Lisa, and FA. Okay. 1, Jason, Lisa, and FA. So that's how the program runs. If we type in a number that's outside of between 1 to 4, then it'll just keep looping. That is invalid number, please try again. If we type in a string, that's invalid number, please try again, until we exit the program. Okay. And it'll log the program and let us know we've ran it. So we've ran this program twice already. It logs the date and the time, along with the message that the class, our functions file, was imported successfully. So that's how this program runs. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you can create something similar, identical to this, and add to your portfolio. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you.